Hello Midnights. Up next, cattle mutilation, a holistic examination. Thank you for tuning in. Let us know where you are listening from and don't forget to subscribe. For decades, the phenomenon of cattle mutilation has defied easy answers, presenting a perplexing and enduring mystery that continues to captivate investigators, scientists, and the public alike. Characterized by the eerily precise surgical removal of organs, bloodless wounds, and the baffling absence of tracks around affected animals, these cases consistently challenge conventional explanations and have persisted across generations of scrutiny. This persistent anomaly demands a holistic examination, delving into the reported facts, exploring various theories, acknowledging the profound impact these incidents have on rural communities, and understanding the complex interplay of media, psychology, and skepticism that keeps the enigma alive. One of the most striking aspects of cattle mutilation is the consistent pattern of injuries. Typically, soft tissues around the jaw, eyes, tongue, and rectum are meticulously excised, often with what appears to be surgical precision. These excisions are frequently described as possessing remarkably clean, cauterized-like edges, unlike the ragged tearing seen in natural predation or even most human-inflicted wounds. Internal organs, such as the heart, liver, or sexual organs, may also be removed with similar exactitude. Remarkably, there's frequently no blood found at the scene, neither pooling around the carcass nor splattered in the immediate vicinity, even with significant tissue removal. This absence of blood, coupled with no signs of struggle or even discernible footprints, vehicle tracks, or drag marks, creates a profoundly baffling scenario for investigators. The animals are often discovered in open pastures, sometimes miles from any road or access point, deepening the mystery of how such precise and bloodless procedures could be carried out with such stealth, leaving no discernible trace of ingress or egress. What's more, local scavengers often seem to avoid these mutilated carcasses for an unusually long time, deepening the mystery. The association between cattle mutilations and aliens/UFOs largely stems from a combination of factors, primarily the seemingly inexplicable nature of the incidents and the cultural context of the mid to late 20th century when these reports became widely publicized. This connection formed due to surgical precision and lack of evidence. The described surgical precision in the removal of organs, eyes, tongues, udders, genitals, rectums, often without signs of struggle, tracks, or blood, leads people to look beyond terrestrial explanations. The clean nature of the cuts, unlike typical predator or human-inflicted wounds, suggests a non-conventional agent. Bloodlessness, the apparent absence of blood at the scene, despite significant tissue removal, contributes to the sense of the unnatural. While experts offer explanations like livor mortis or rapid decomposition, the initial impression for many is that the animals were drained of blood. Coincidence with UFO sightings. A significant factor in the alien connection is the anecdotal occurrence of some cattle mutilation incidents in areas where UFO sightings were also reported around the same time. These perceived coincidences fueled the idea that UFOs might be involved in beaming up animals for examination or biological harvesting. Lack of conventional explanations. For a long time, official investigations, including brief inquiries by the FBI in the 1970s, often failed to provide conclusive answers that satisfied the public or affected ranchers. When law enforcement couldn't explain the phenomena, and veterinary explanations were sometimes deemed unconvincing by those on the ground, more exotic theories gained traction. Media and pop culture influence. Documentaries, books, and TV shows, particularly from the 1970s onwards, heavily popularized the alien theory. Works like Linda Moulton Howe's 1980 documentary A Strange Harvest explicitly linked cattle mutilations to UFOs and extraterrestrial activity, solidifying this connection in public consciousness. Biological experimentation narrative. The specific types of organs often removed, reproductive organs, eyes, tongues, fostered theories that aliens might be conducting biological research or collecting samples for unknown purposes, aligning with broader alien abduction narratives that often involve medical examinations. While scientific and skeptical explanations for cattle mutilations often point to natural causes, such as predation, decomposition patterns, specific animal behaviors, or even rare diseases, or human perpetrators, though often without clear motives, the enduring mystery and the unexplained elements continue to lend themselves to. Law enforcement agencies and veterinarians investigating these cases often struggle to find logical explanations. While initial theories point to predators, the surgical precision, the specific targeting of certain organs, and the consistent lack of traditional predator signs, like massive blood loss, struggle marks, or consumption of muscle tissue, quickly rule them out. Scavengers consume, they don't surgically remove with such meticulousness. Furthermore, the sheer number of documented cases across various countries, particularly in the United States, makes individual, isolated acts of bizarre human behavior less likely as a sole explanation for the widespread, consistent patterns. The phenomenon of cattle mutilations, characterized by bizarre and unexplained animal deaths, gained widespread attention in the latter half of the 20th century, particularly across the American West and Midwest. However, reports of similar anomalous animal deaths can be traced back even further, with some claims suggesting instances as early as the 17th century. One of the earliest and most pivotal incidents that brought this mystery into the national spotlight involved a horse in Colorado in September 1967. Famously dubbed Snippy, though her actual name was Lady. Found with its head and neck completely stripped of flesh down to the bone, the scene was devoid of any blood, and the cuts were described as remarkably clean. Crucially, there were no tracks around the carcass. This baffling case set a chilling precedent for subsequent reports and ignited early speculation about non-natural causes, with sensational headlines even suggesting flying saucers killed my horse. The idea that these incidents weren't natural occurrences emerged not from a single revelation, but from the consistent observations of ranchers and, later, law enforcement, who found the evidence didn't align with known explanations for animal deaths. Ranchers, with their intimate knowledge of livestock, predation, and decomposition, were often the first to recognize the unsettling differences. Lack of struggle. Unlike typical predator attacks, there were no signs of a struggle like torn-up ground or broken fences. Absence of tracks. Often, no discernible footprints, human or animal, or vehicle tracks were found leading to or from the carcass. Bloodless scenes. Perhaps the most striking observation was the perplexing lack of blood at the scene, even after significant tissue removal, defying normal post-mortem expectations. Precise excisions, the specific, clean, and almost surgical removal of soft tissues, such as eyes, tongues, udders, anuses, and genitals, was distinctly unlike the ragged tearing left by scavengers or natural predators. Scavenger avoidance. In some cases, local wildlife, including scavengers and insects, appeared to avoid the mutilated carcasses for an unusually long period, adding another layer to the enigma. The 1970s witnessed a dramatic surge in reported cattle mutilations across numerous American states. Estimates from this period suggest thousands of incidents occurred, with one state alone reporting nearly 200 cases within a 6-month period in the mid-1970s. This widespread phenomenon led to millions of dollars in documented livestock losses. During this peak period, cases consistently exhibited the now familiar patterns: precise excisions of soft tissues, apparent bloodlessness, and the puzzling lack of tracks or struggle. The sheer volume of alleged incidents compelled local and state law enforcement agencies, and even briefly the FBI, between 1974 and 1978, to investigate. While official conclusions often pointed to natural causes, such as predation, decomposition, and scavengers, sometimes exacerbated by disease, many ranchers and local officials sharply disagreed, citing the highly unusual features. For instance, Sheriff George A. Yarnell of Elbert County, Colorado, famously stated in 1975, "I've been around cattle all my life and I can sure tell whether it's been done by coyote or a sharp instrument." Even into the 21st century, sporadic reports continue to surface from various rural areas, demonstrating the enduring nature of the mystery and highlighting that the phenomenon, whatever its cause, hasn't ceased. The persistent failure of conventional explanations to fully account for all the observed phenomena led to the emergence of various non-natural theories. Cult/satanic rituals. Initially, some law enforcement and community members speculated that the mutilations were the work of cults engaged in ritualistic animal sacrifice, as the specific removal of organs sometimes aligned with occult symbolism. Government/military experiments. Another prominent theory, especially among ranchers, suggested that the mutilations were part of a secret government program, perhaps testing biological agents or conducting clandestine monitoring. Reports of unmarked helicopters near mutilation sites often fueled this idea. This theory gained particular traction in the 1970s, a period of significant public distrust in government. Extraterrestrial involvement. The most sensational theory linked the surgical precision, bloodlessness, and lack of tracks, coupled with concurrent UFO sightings in some areas, to extraterrestrial activity. This theory was heavily popularized by media, most notably Linda Moulton Howe's 1980 documentary A Strange Harvest, which explicitly connected the phenomena. The hypothesis suggested that aliens were beaming up animals, performing experiments, and then returning the carcasses. In essence, The idea that cattle mutilations are not a natural occurrence arose from a compelling mismatch between the evidence observed at the scenes and known natural or conventional human activities. Ranchers' deep understanding of their livestock, combined with the bizarre and consistent patterns of injury, compelled them and others to look beyond everyday explanations, creating a mystery that continues to intrigue and perplex to this day. Over the decades, numerous individuals and organizations have dedicated themselves to investigating cattle mutilations, often arriving at vastly different conclusions, shaping both public perception and the scientific debate. An investigative journalist's perspective, one prominent investigative journalist and documentary filmmaker became a central figure in popularizing the extraterrestrial hypothesis. Her early documentary work, based on extensive interviews with ranchers, law enforcement, and veterinarians, detailed numerous cases exhibiting unusual characteristics. She emphasized the recurring patterns of precise, seemingly cauterized excisions, the alleged lack of blood, and the often reported sightings of unusual lights or helicopters in the vicinity. She meticulously cataloged cases where instruments capable of such precision were seemingly absent. Her subsequent, more comprehensive writings further solidified her conclusion that extraterrestrial beings were involved in harvesting biological samples, potentially for research or survival, with an implied or explicit government complicity in a cover-up. This work, though controversial, provided a detailed narrative framework that significantly influenced the popular perception linking mutilations to unexplained aerial phenomena and related events, presenting the phenomenon as a systematic, non-human operation. As of 2025, this journalist remains highly active in the field of unexplained phenomena, continuing investigations and producing content for a dedicated website, cementing her role as a prominent voice in the community exploring such mysteries. A law enforcement officer's on-site investigations. As a state police officer in the Southwest, one investigator conducted arguably the most significant law enforcement inquiry into cattle mutilations in the 1970s, particularly in a region often considered a hotspot for such occurrences. Known for his meticulous and practical approach, he documented hundreds of cases through on-site investigations. He consistently observed the signature features, perfect, circular, or triangular excisions of soft tissues, eyes, tongues, rectums, udders, genitals, often appearing cauterized, the perplexing absence of blood, both on the carcass and the ground, and the striking lack of struggle marks or footprints, even in muddy conditions. This investigator also reported finding trace evidence of sedatives in some carcasses and documented numerous sightings of unmarked helicopters, often flying at night without lights, in proximity to the sites. While his official reports never definitively stated alien involvement, his documented observations frequently highlighted the inability of conventional explanations to account for all evidence. His work, posthumously detailed in various publications, became a primary source for theories involving secret government operations, potential black projects, and even alleged underground bases, suggesting some animals were possibly pre-selected for these procedures. This investigator's extensive case files and personal insights continue to be a foundational resource for researchers exploring the broader cattle mutilation phenomenon. A federal investigation's skeptical conclusion. In 1979, pressured by widespread public concern and reports on Native American reservations, which fell under federal jurisdiction, a federal agency launched a dedicated investigation. Led by a specific agent, this inquiry aimed to determine if federal crimes were being committed. The team gathered extensive data from local law enforcement and conducted their own observations. The ultimate conclusion of this investigation was highly skeptical of exotic explanations. The report largely attributed the majority of cases to natural predation, decomposition, and scavengers. It explicitly stated that none of the reported cases has involved what appear to be mutilations by other than common predators, and noted that the seemingly surgical cuts could be explained by natural tearing of skin and muscle or the precise feeding habits of certain scavengers. The bloodless aspect was often attributed to blood settling within the carcass, livor mortis, or being consumed by insects and bacteria. While this federal report largely dismissed the more sensational theories, it was often met with strong disagreement from ranchers and local law enforcement who believed natural causes couldn't explain the observed precision. Critics also argued that the investigation's limited jurisdiction and resources constrained its scope, leaving many anomalies unaddressed. This federal report remains the official stance and primary contribution of the national government to the cattle mutilation discussion, frequently cited by skeptics of extraordinary explanations. A scientist's field research in hotspots. A prominent plant physiologist and university scientist conducted extensive and often field-based research into unexplained phenomena, including aerial reports and peculiar animal deaths, particularly in a high-strangeness region of a western state in the 1970s. His detailed investigations cataloged numerous aerial sightings, strange lights, and peculiar animal deaths that shared characteristics with cattle mutilations. While he approached the topic with scientific rigor, his extensive data collection highlighted the genuinely perplexing nature of many incidents, often linking them to aerial phenomena without definitively concluding their origin. His work emphasized the sheer volume of inexplicable events reported in specific geographical hotspots, suggesting an underlying pattern beyond mere coincidence and demonstrating that not all such occurrences could be easily dismissed. His pioneering scientific approach to investigating anomalous phenomena laid groundwork for subsequent research into the region's mysteries and remains influential for those seeking rigorous analysis of high-strangeness events. A sociological interpretation. An agricultural historian offers a sociological and historical perspective rather than a forensic one. In his analyses, he theorizes that the widespread reports and public hysteria surrounding cattle mutilations in the 1970s provided a potent outlet for independent, small-scale ranchers to express both their profound economic anxiety and their deep-seated resentment for what they perceived as intrusive government interference in agricultural life. During the early 1970s, ranchers faced severe economic hardship due to rampant inflation, rising feed and fuel costs, and government price freezes on beef, which squeezed their already tight margins. This historian suggests that unexplained cattle deaths became a focal point for these grievances, with the idea of a government conspiracy, perhaps involving biological testing or military experiments, resonating with a demographic that felt marginalized and negatively impacted by federal policies. His findings, rooted in a critical examination of historical context, mass psychology, and socio-economic factors, propose a powerful psychological and sociological driver behind the perceived epidemic, arguing that the narrative of mutilation served as a means to articulate broader frustrations and a loss of autonomy. This academic's work remains a key contribution to the socio-cultural interpretation of the phenomenon. Several theories attempt to explain cattle mutilation, ranging from the mundane to the extraordinary. Natural causes. One common, albeit often insufficient, explanation is that the observed patterns are a result of natural decomposition and scavenger activity. Proponents of this view, including various official investigations and some veterinary analyses, argue that the seemingly surgical cuts can be explained by the natural tearing of skin and muscle as a carcass bloats and deflates, or by the highly specific and often surprisingly precise feeding habits of certain scavengers like blowflies, beetles, or even birds that target soft tissues first. The bloodless aspect is often attributed to blood settling within the carcass, livor mortis, once circulation ceases, or to rapid absorption into the ground, consumption by insects, or evaporation. Field experiments where animal carcasses are left to decompose naturally have shown that under certain environmental conditions, many of the characteristics reported in mutilation cases, for example, exposed bone, missing eyes, can indeed occur. However, critics of this explanation consistently point to the extreme precision and highly specific nature of organ removal in many cases, often involving the absence of any other scavenger damage, which seems to defy typical natural processes and leave an unexplained remainder. Human perpetrators. Other theories involve human agents, such as cult activity, satanic rituals, or sadistic pranksters. Motivations could range from disturbing the peace of rural communities, psychological warfare, or even experimental biological attacks by unknown human groups. Some variations suggest organized groups involved in dark rituals requiring specific animal parts or even drug-related activities where animal glands are harvested. While isolated incidents of bizarre animal cruelty certainly occur, evidence for widespread, coordinated human involvement in thousands of cases across vast, disparate geographies remains largely anecdotal, and inconsistent with the precision, stealth, and absence of physical evidence reported in core mutilation cases. It would require an unprecedented level of organization and operational security to maintain secrecy over decades. Covert earthly operations. A significant set of theories points to secret earthly operations. Some law enforcement officials and investigators have noted the recurring presence of unmarked helicopters, often flying at night without lights or visible identification, in the vicinity of mutilation sites. These observations fuel theories of black projects, suggesting that animals are being used for clandestine biological testing, genetic experimentation, or the monitoring of diseases. Such operations might involve highly advanced, silent aircraft and specialized equipment for rapid, precise tissue extraction. This hypothesis often implies government complicity in a cover-up to conceal sensitive research or psychological operations, creating an aura of fear and uncertainty in targeted areas. The motivation could be anything from developing biological weapons, studying zoonotic diseases, or testing advanced covert technologies. Extraterrestrial intervention. Perhaps the most sensational and widely discussed theory involves extraterrestrial intervention. Proponents of this hypothesis point to the highly technical nature of the excisions, which appear beyond current human surgical capabilities, especially in a field setting. The implied technology for such precise cuts, along with potential levitation abilities to transport animals without leaving tracks, suggest a non-human origin. The alleged lack of blood, reports of seemingly impossible removal of large animals, and numerous accompanying UFO sightings or reports of unusual lights in the sky near the affected areas all contribute to this theory. This hypothesis often posits that alien beings are harvesting biological samples for unknown research purposes, perhaps for genetic studies, disease analysis, or even a form of resource extraction on a scale that implies a vast, ongoing operation involving thousands of subjects over decades. The sheer scale and consistency of the phenomenon across different countries would suggest a highly organized, non-human intelligence at work. Investigative challenges are inherent to these cases. Local law enforcement often lacks the specialized resources and expertise in forensic veterinary pathology required for such unusual cases. The rural, expansive nature of ranches makes securing a vast crime scene virtually impossible, and the rapid onset of decomposition further complicates forensic analysis, limiting the window for critical examination to mere hours. These practical hurdles mean that even dedicated investigators are often left without actionable intelligence. From a scientific perspective, many veterinarians and forensic pathologists attribute mutilation characteristics to natural processes, but a persistent unexplained remainder of incidents continues to defy conventional explanation, prompting deeper scrutiny. Beyond the scientific and investigative aspects, cattle mutilations profoundly impact affected communities, leaving a lasting scar on the lives of ranchers and rural residents. The economic ramifications alone are devastating. Each lost animal represents a direct financial blow, typically costing thousands of dollars in lost market value, potential offspring, and breeding investment. For independent ranchers operating on already thin margins, a single unexplained loss can jeopardize their livelihood, and multiple incidents can lead to bankruptcy or force them out of a generations-old way of life. This financial vulnerability transforms abstract mystery into tangible hardship. The emotional toll, however, often transcends the monetary. Ranchers often develop deep bonds with their livestock, seeing them not just as commodities but as part of their family's heritage and daily routine. Discovering a mutilated animal can evoke a complex spectrum of raw emotions. Imagine waking to find one of your beloved animals, a creature you've nurtured and relied on, lying lifeless in the field. Your first wave is grief, a heavy sorrow for the loss of a life you cared for. But then, as you approach, grief twists into horror and disgust. The sight isn't that of a predator's kill, it's something far more chilling. The wounds are precise, almost surgical, defying any natural explanation you can conceive. This isn't just a death, it's a violation, a profound trespass into your sanctuary, your livelihood. Soon, grief and horror ignite into anger. Anger at the unknown force that committed this act, a profound rage at the desecration of your property and your peace of mind. This isn't just property damage, it feels deeply personal. The sheer impunity of it leaves you with a gnawing paranoia. You can't shake the unsettling sense that you're being watched, perhaps even targeted. Every shadow seems to hold a hidden observer, every sound a potential threat. It's a vigilance that wears on you, creating an almost constant state of anxiety, akin to post-traumatic stress. And through it all, there's a profound sense of isolation. You live in a rural community, often far removed from the bustling world. When you try to articulate this bizarre, horrifying experience, you're often met with skepticism, even ridicule, from those in urban centers or official channels. This only deepens your feeling of being utterly alone against an incomprehensible, unseen threat. This unsettling nature fosters a pervasive atmosphere of fear. Ranchers become hyper-vigilant, constantly checking their herds, sometimes even forming informal patrols, worried about which animal might be next. This fear extends beyond livestock to their personal safety and that of their families, especially in isolated rural areas where help can be far away. The inexplicable nature of the events amplifies this, as there's no discernible pattern to predict or a tangible threat to confront, leading to a deep sense of powerlessness. Simultaneously, a deep sense of frustration mounts. Local law enforcement agencies, often under-resourced and lacking forensic expertise for such unusual cases, struggle to provide answers. Their investigations frequently lead to dead ends, reinforcing the ranchers' feeling of helplessness. This frustration is compounded by a perception that their concerns aren't taken seriously by higher authorities, or that official explanations, like natural predation, dismiss their direct observations of anomalous evidence, which contradicts their intimate knowledge of livestock in the land. Ranchers, who often possess generations of expertise in animal husbandry and the local environment, find their lived experience and observations undermined by what they perceive as inadequate or dismissive external investigations. This culminates in a profound distrust. When traditional institutions, law enforcement, government agencies, scientific bodies, fail to provide credible or satisfying explanations, communities often turn to alternative narratives. This distrust can manifest as skepticism towards official pronouncements, a belief in cover-ups, or a conviction that a powerful, hidden entity, whether extraterrestrial, military, or cultic, is operating with impunity. The inability to protect their animals and themselves breeds a corrosive lack of faith in the systems meant to ensure their safety and well-being. This human element underscores the importance of a holistic approach, acknowledging not just physical evidence but also psychological and sociological repercussions, highlighting the deep personal and communal toll of this persistent enigma. The enduring fascination with cattle mutilations is undeniably fueled by media coverage and popular culture. What began as scattered, puzzling reports escalated into a widespread phenomenon largely due to the media's eagerness to sensationalize and disseminate unsettling narratives. In the mid-20th century, the primary vehicles were local newspapers, radio, and nascent television news. Reporters, often lacking scientific or forensic training, would focus on the most macabre and inexplicable details: the surgical precision of the cuts, the bloodless nature of the carcasses, and the absence of any conventional signs of struggle or entry. Headlines often used evocative language, such as cattle horror or alien surgeons, instantly creating a sense of dread and mystery. Vivid descriptions of grotesque scenes, sometimes accompanied by unsettling photographs, tapped into a primal human fear of the unknown and the uncanny. This early, often uncritical, reporting laid the groundwork for public panic. To understand this phenomenon, it's crucial to grasp the landscape of UFO and paranormal belief in the mid-20th century. The post-World War II era saw the rise of the flying saucer craze, leading to military investigations, like Project Blue Book, and intense public curiosity about extraterrestrial visitors. This cultural backdrop made the idea of otherworldly entities involved in mysterious events highly plausible. Simultaneously, the Cold War fostered an atmosphere of widespread paranoia and government distrust. News of secret military projects, intelligence operations, and potential threats made theories about clandestine biological testing highly credible to many. This era also solidified the notion of government cover-ups regarding UFOs, a framework that easily extended to other unexplained phenomena. The emergence of the conspiracy theory as a significant cultural force, propelled by major political events of the era, further solidified the idea of powerful, hidden entities operating against the public interest, providing a convenient lens through which to interpret bizarre events like cattle mutilations. These societal undercurrents ensured that when reports of mutilated cattle emerged, the public was already primed to consider explanations beyond the mundane. UFOs and extraterrestrials quickly became the most dominant association, heavily influenced by investigative efforts that explicitly linked the phenomenon to alien biological harvesting. Government conspiracy theories also gained traction, particularly among a public distrustful of authorities, who saw the mysterious helicopters and lack of official explanation as further proof of covert operations. Less prevalent but recurring were theories of cults and satanic rituals, often fueled by moral panics of the era. This sensational media portrayal wasn't merely reactive, it significantly shaped public perception and cemented cattle mutilation's place in popular culture, creating a powerful feedback loop. The more the media reported on the anomalies, the more the public became conditioned to perceive unusual animal deaths as mutilations, sometimes overlooking natural causes. This process of narrative construction meant that even ambiguous evidence could be interpreted through the lens of the established mutilation pattern. Iconic television shows and films strategically employed the unsettling imagery and narrative of cattle mutilation to build suspense and explore themes of the unknown and government secrets, thus integrating the phenomenon deeply into mainstream entertainment. These narratives perpetuated specific archetypes: the helpless rancher victim, the elusive phantom mutilator, be it alien or human, and the stonewalling government. In the digital age, social media platforms and niche websites continue this amplification, although also contributing to the spread of unverified claims and solidifying existing belief silos. The media, in essence, became both the chronicler and a co-creator of the cattle mutilation myth. A significant aspect of this enduring mystery is the persistent lack of definitive, universally accepted conclusions from official investigations. Despite decades of reports, law enforcement investigations rarely yield arrests or convictions, primarily due to an acute absence of traditional forensic evidence. The scenes often present baffling challenges: no footprints, tire tracks, or signs of struggle, even on soft ground. The rural, expansive nature of ranchlands makes securing a vast crime scene virtually impossible, and the rapid onset of decomposition further complicates forensic analysis, limiting the window for critical examination to mere hours. These practical hurdles mean that even dedicated investigators are often left without actionable intelligence. Official reports from federal agencies, while acknowledging the phenomenon's existence, often conclude with no definitive answers or identify specific perpetrators, particularly in cases occurring outside specific federal jurisdictions. While scientific explanations, such as natural decomposition and scavenger activity, can account for many of the reported characteristics in isolated cases, they consistently fall short in explaining an unexplained remainder of incidents. It is these particularly anomalous features that continue to defy conventional explanation. The extreme precision of excisions, often described as surgical, with smooth, sometimes described as cauterized, cuts that scavengers simply don't make. The consistency of these signature cuts across diverse geographic locations and species, not just cattle, is particularly perplexing. The selective removal of specific organs, such as eyes, tongues, sexual organs, or udders, while other readily accessible tissues remain untouched. This suggests a targeted extraction rather than random feeding. The perplexing absence of blood at the scene, even with significant tissue removal. While blood settles internally, the complete lack of external blood, even minor seepage or splatters, from wounds that would normally bleed profusely is a consistent anomaly, challenging natural explanations. The lack of any tracks or disturbance around the carcass, even on soft ground, suggesting either levitation or an unprecedented level of operational stealth by the perpetrators. This further distinguishes them from human or animal activity. The occasional reports of unusual odors, lights, or hums near the sites, preceding or following discoveries, which further compound the mystery and move them beyond conventional explanations. This chronic lack of conclusive answers gives rise to the concept of phantom mutilators, an unseen, elusive entity, whether alien, governmental, or cultic, operating with complete stealth and impunity. The fact that no one has demonstrably witnessed a mutilation in progress, despite the hundreds if not thousands of reported cases, adds immeasurably to the mystique. This phantom quality is critical because it means the various theories about the perpetrators cannot be directly disproven by a known, apprehended party. Without a suspect, concrete motives, or definable methods, the mystery remains open-ended, allowing for continuous speculation and making it immune to simple debunking. Furthermore, observer suggestibility and confirmation bias play a crucial role in perpetuating the narrative. Individuals, primed by decades of media sensationalism and pre-existing beliefs, may interpret natural scavenger activity or decomposition, which can, for instance, lead to skin pulling taut around certain areas, making cuts appear precise, as deliberate and precise surgical cuts. This cognitive filter leads to new reports that echo familiar patterns, inadvertently feeding into and reinforcing the larger, extraordinary narrative. The psychological impact of this persistence is profound. Communities remain in a state of unease, convinced that an undetectable force is at work, perpetuating the fear, frustration, and deep-seated distrust in official explanations that characterize the human experience of this enduring enigma. The debate also highlights a methodological clash: parsimony, Occam's razor, versus the exploration of extraordinary possibilities. Scientists and skeptics often adhere to the principle of parsimony, preferring the most straightforward explanation, natural processes or known human activity, arguing that a detailed understanding of taphonomy, animal behavior, and environmental factors can account for most reported characteristics. They emphasize that complex, extraordinary explanations shouldn't be invoked until all simpler ones are exhausted. Conversely, those open to extraordinary explanations contend that parsimony is insufficient for truly anomalous observations, particularly when the consistent signature characteristics, like precise, bloodless excisions and lack of tracks, are repeatedly reported and defy all known conventional explanations. They argue that dismissing these unexplained residuals simply to maintain a parsimonious worldview may blind investigators to genuine anomalies. This fundamental divergence in methodology ensures the debate continues, creating a persistent tension between skepticism and the acceptance of the truly unexplained. While the peak of mutilation reports was in the 1970s, the phenomenon hasn't disappeared. Reports continue sporadically, often disseminated rapidly via the internet and social media, which allows for quicker sharing of information, but also for the uncritical spread of misinformation. Contemporary media tends to be more cautious and often leans towards skeptical explanations, but niche platforms still amplify new cases that defy easy explanation. The phenomenon is increasingly integrated into broader paranormal or unexplained phenomena narratives, linking it with UFO sightings, mysterious animal deaths, or other high strangeness events, broadening its appeal and reach. To truly understand cattle mutilation in a holistic sense, we must move beyond the literal facts and theories to explore the layers of meaning it has accumulated in the human psyche. This phenomenon, whether explainable or not, has become a potent symbol, reflecting our anxieties, our relationship with nature, and our eternal quest for meaning in the face of the inexplicable. A violation of the natural order and a breach of sanctuary, for ranchers and rural communities, the mutilation of livestock represents a profound and deeply personal violation. Cattle are not merely commodities, they are often seen as an extension of their livelihood, a direct connection to the land and a generations-long legacy. The precise, bloodless removal of organs feels utterly unnatural, a chilling departure from the familiar, albeit sometimes harsh, realities of conventional predation or the gradual decay of natural death. This disruption of the expected natural order instills a deep, visceral sense of unease, suggesting an intelligence, or force, operating with a cold, deliberate intent beyond human comprehension and control. It taps into primal fears not just of the unknown, but of a specifically intelligent, possibly malevolent, unknown. The sanctity of the ranch, traditionally a haven of safety and control over one's domain, is utterly breached, leaving its inhabitants with a pervasive sense of insecurity that gnaws at the very foundation of their lives. It's a deeply personal affront, far more disturbing than a simple economic loss, a desecration of their domain. Symbol of helplessness and vulnerability in an age of control, the fact that these incidents so often occur stealthily, leaving no discernible trace of a perpetrator, profoundly amplifies a sense of acute helplessness. In an age where modern society prides itself on its scientific prowess, surveillance capabilities, and ability to identify and solve problems, cattle mutilations stand as a stark, mocking contradiction. They defy detection, resist explanation, and elude any form of effective prevention, highlighting a chilling blind spot in our seemingly ordered world. If large, robust livestock can be so easily and expertly dispatched without a trace, what does that imply for human vulnerability? This resonates with broader societal anxieties about a loss of individual agency in a complex, often overwhelming world. It suggests that even our most sophisticated systems of order, justice, and security are fallible against certain, perhaps advanced, threats. The mutilations become a tangible representation of what cannot be controlled, understood, or even truly seen by our modern paradigms, challenging the pervasive belief that every problem has a solvable, rational explanation. They evoke the chilling thought that even our most private spaces can be invaded, our possessions taken, and our sense of security shattered, all by an unseen force that leaves no evidence of its presence beyond the victims themselves. Metaphor for disruption, control, and unseen forces in a hyper-connected world. On a broader societal level, cattle mutilations can be interpreted as a powerful metaphor for various forms of disruption and the overwhelming feeling of being controlled by unseen forces in our hyper-connected, yet often alienating, world. In an era marked by rapid technological advancements, for example, AI, genetic engineering, climate anxieties, geopolitical instabilities, and an overwhelming, often disorienting, flow of information, the mystery can symbolize powerful, impersonal forces reshaping our world in ways we don't fully understand or consent to. Whether interpreted as alien interference, covert governmental overreach, or dark ritualistic practices, the phenomenon speaks to a deep-seated apprehension about powerful, hidden entities manipulating events from the shadows. The meticulous, almost clinical precision of the mutilations hints at a cold, calculating, and utterly alien agenda, a stark contrast to the often messy, emotional, and predictable nature of human affairs. This suggests a systemic, non-human purpose behind the acts, feeding into a pervasive fear that humanity might be subject to a larger, incomprehensible scheme, reduced to mere objects of experimentation or observation. In a global society striving for transparency, cattle mutilations represent the ultimate opaque operation, fueling narratives of secret societies, black projects, or advanced civilizations operating just beyond our perception, pulling strings we cannot even see. They represent the ultimate black box mystery, embodying the fear of unknown powers influencing our lives. The discourse around cattle mutilation also illuminates critical aspects of humanity's evolving relationship with both the natural world and the boundless realm of the unknown, particularly pertinent in the early 21st century. Nature is both nurturer and a vector for the uncanny. For centuries, agriculture has been humanity's foundational interaction with nature, providing sustenance but also posing challenges. Cattle mutilations introduce an element of terror and unpredictability into this relationship. It reasserts nature not just as a source of life and sustenance, but as a potential conduit for forces beyond human control, a reminder that even in seemingly domesticated landscapes, the wild, the mysterious, and the dangerous can intrude. This can be seen as a modern manifestation of ancient fears of wilderness and the unpredictable power of the non-human world, updated for an era where science purports to have tamed most natural mysteries. The uncanny precision of the cuts suggests a non-organic, almost technological, intervention into the organic world, blurring the lines between the natural and the artificial, making even the familiar environment feel alien. The allure of the unexplained and the quest for knowledge in an information age. Despite unprecedented scientific advancements and instant access to information, humanity retains a profound fascination with phenomena that defy easy explanation. Cattle mutilations tap into this innate curiosity, acting as a contemporary monster or mystery that challenges the boundaries of conventional science. The tireless efforts of researchers, both mainstream and fringe, to collect data, analyze patterns, and propose theories, however disparate, underscore a fundamental human drive to understand, to categorize, and ultimately, to conquer the unknown through knowledge. When established paradigms fail to provide answers, the human mind instinctively seeks new ones, pushing the boundaries of what is considered possible. In an era where fake news and alternative facts proliferate, the inability to definitively solve these cases becomes a powerful symbol of the limits of verifiable truth, highlighting that not all questions yield to data. A Rorschach test for belief systems and a mirror of digital divides. Perhaps most profoundly, cattle mutilation acts as a kind of Rorschach test for individual and societal belief systems. What one perceives as the cause, whether it be opportunistic scavengers, human pranksters, secret government projects, or extraterrestrial entities, often reflects deeper assumptions about the world, trust in authority, scientific literacy, and openness to unconventional ideas. The phenomenon becomes a canvas onto which diverse worldviews are projected, making it a rich sociological study in itself. It highlights the human tendency to find patterns and create narratives, even in the absence of complete information, to make sense of a world that is often chaotic and uncertain. Furthermore, in the current digital landscape, the debate around cattle mutilation often mirrors broader societal divides, with different camps of believers and skeptics entrenched in their perspectives, often amplified by echo chambers within online communities. The fragmented nature of information in the digital age allows diverse interpretations to coexist and reinforce each other, deepening the societal split on what constitutes truth. Ultimately, the meaning of cattle mutilation transcends the sum of its physical evidence and proposed theories. It has evolved into a modern myth, functioning much like ancient legends that sought to explain the inexplicable and embody collective fears within a cultural narrative. Unlike a simple crime story, this phenomenon taps into profound existential concerns that resonate deeply with the human condition in the 21st century. It is a myth that confronts our innate sense of vulnerability, not merely the fragility of an individual rancher, but the potential fragility of humanity itself when faced with a force that appears technologically superior, perfectly elusive, and utterly indifferent to our understanding or suffering. This challenges the very foundations of anthropocentric thought, hinting at entities or agendas for whom human life, or even animal life, holds a completely different, perhaps clinical, value. The silent, swift, and seemingly surgical nature of the acts embodies a chilling precision that mocks our defenses, raising the disquieting question: if this can be done to our livestock with such impunity, what greater, unseen operations might be occurring with us as the unwitting subjects? The persistence of the mystery also acts as a profound challenge to the very limits of human knowledge and scientific hubris. In an age where every anomaly is expected to yield to empirical investigation and logical deduction, cattle mutilations remain a stubbornly insoluble enigma. This discomfort with the truly unexplained forces a confrontation with the boundaries of our current scientific paradigms, highlighting the unsettling possibility that some phenomena simply lie beyond our current capacity for comprehension or control. This unresolved nature resonates with a collective anxiety that despite our advancements in the vast ocean of digital information at our fingertips, fundamental aspects of reality might forever remain veiled, inaccessible to our most sophisticated tools and intellect. It's a stark reminder that the universe, even our corner of it, still holds deep, unsettling secrets. Furthermore, the phenomenon directly speaks to a pervasive societal loss of control. In a globalized world grappling with complex, often overwhelming challenges, from the accelerating pace of technological change and the ethical dilemmas posed by artificial intelligence and genetic engineering, to climate anxieties, geopolitical instabilities, and the specter of future pandemics, the idea of an unseen, powerful force operating with impunity becomes a potent allegory. Cattle mutilations embody the fear that unseen hands are pulling strings, that our destinies are being shaped by forces beyond our democratic or even conscious reach. The meticulously precise yet seemingly purposeless nature of the acts implies a cold, mechanistic interaction, where animals, and by extension, humanity, are merely specimens in a grand, incomprehensible experiment. This narrative feeds into a collective unease about external forces that hold ultimate, perhaps malevolent, power, reducing individuals to mere objects in a larger, alien agenda, robbing them of their agency and dignity. This enduring narrative finds fertile ground in our contemporary age of uncertainty. The sheer volume of information, often contradictory, delivered through disparate channels, fosters an environment of suspicion and a diminished trust in traditional institutions. When official explanations falter, the vacuum is readily filled by alternative theories, creating a societal Rorschach test for our anxieties. The cattle mutilation mystery becomes a vessel for expressing these amorphous fears, whether of government overreach, malevolent extraterrestrial presence, or the unsettling notion that our understanding of reality is far narrower than we presume. The very act of the mystery's persistence, defying resolution across decades, provides a strange comfort for some, affirming that there's more out there, a grander design or hidden truth, and an acute discomfort for others, affirming humanity's profound insignificance and lack of mastery over its own domain. Thus, cattle mutilation transcends a mere curiosity. It has become a compelling, modern myth that allows society to grapple with its deepest existential concerns. It's a myth about vulnerability in a world of unseen forces, about the limits of human knowledge against seemingly impossible events, and about the tension between rational explanation and the magnetic pull of the unknown. It serves as a stark reminder that even in our highly technological and scientifically advanced age, there remain aspects of reality that stubbornly resist easy categorization, forcing us to confront the boundaries of our understanding. This narrative feeds into a collective anxiety about what lies beyond our control, whether it's advanced, covert technology, or a non-human intelligence operating on Earth. Whether a product of misinterpretation, extraordinary natural phenomena, or truly inexplicable intervention, the meaning derived from cattle mutilation lies in its persistent ability to provoke fear, wonder, and a relentless quest for truth in the shadowy corners of our shared reality. It is a testament to the human imagination's enduring power to create meaning where concrete answers are scarce, shaping our ongoing dialogue with the vast, often unsettling, unknown. Reports of unexplained cattle mutilations continue to surface, with the most recent widely reported incidents largely stemming from rural areas in the United States, particularly Oregon and Kansas, and some reports from India. It's important to note that investigations into these incidents often lead to various theories, ranging from natural causes and predation to human-caused acts, such as cult activity or theft, and more unconventional explanations like extraterrestrial involvement. Here's a summary of recent and notable cattle mutilation reports. United States, Oregon, ongoing focus. Rural Harney County in Oregon has been a recurring location for these mysterious incidents. A documentary titled Not One Drop of Blood, which premiered in March 2025, investigates these cases, including incidents from 2019 where 5 purebred bulls were found dead, drained of blood, and with sexual organs precisely removed. Reports continue of similar occurrences, with ranchers and law enforcement in the area noting a lack of tracks, blood, or scavenger activity. Grant County, Oregon, also had a recent case reported around November 2024, where a bull was found with its snout, tongue, eyelids, and penis cleanly removed. Kansas, recent reports. In June 2025, reports emerged of a 700-pound heifer found butchered near Munden, Kansas, with its right ear removed and right rear quarter butchered. 2 weeks later, a second butchered cow was found with its right ear removed. Subsequent reports of similar cases followed in August and October 2024, with some involving the removal of sex organs. While local press initially speculated about a mad dog or phantom butcher, the Kansas Brand Commissioner's office later attributed most deaths and organ removals to natural causes, including predation and disease. India, Karnataka, January 2025. There were reports of cattle mutilation incidents in Karnataka, India, with one case in January 2025 involving a pregnant cow being slaughtered on a hillock, and its fetus, limbs, and horns discarded after the meat was taken. Other incidents in the same month included a calf having its tail chopped off and 3 cows having their udders damaged. General observations and context, similarities. Many of these cases share common characteristics: precise, surgical removal of specific body parts, for example, eyes, tongues, udders, genitalia, rectums, a lack of blood at the scene, and no signs of struggle or tracks around the carcass. Ongoing mystery. Despite decades of reports, including FBI involvement in the 1970s, no definitive explanation has been universally accepted for the more unusual cases. Law enforcement and experts often lean towards natural causes, predation, or human criminal activity, while some ranchers and investigators remain convinced of a more unexplainable phenomenon. Documentaries and media. The mysterious nature of cattle mutilations continues to attract media attention, with documentaries like Not One Drop of Blood and episodes of shows like Netflix's Unsolved Mysteries, which examined Oregon cases in October 2024, highlighting the ongoing mystery. It's important to differentiate between confirmed mutilations with unusual characteristics and more common instances of cattle deaths due to natural causes, predation, or standard farm practices, like dehorning or castration, which are referred to as mutilations in a different context by animal welfare organizations like 4paws. The latest cattle mutilations in the context of the user's query typically refer to the unexplained, often surgical incidents. While cattle mutilations refer to a specific, unexplained phenomenon characterized by precise, bloodless removal of organs from livestock, cases of human mutilation are overwhelmingly attributed to conventional causes. However, there have been a few highly unusual and often unsubstantiated reports of human bodies found with injuries that eerily parallel the characteristics of animal mutilations, leading some to speculate about a connection. These are extremely rare compared to the vast number of documented animal cases. One of the most frequently cited alleged incidents is the Levette Cunningham case from 1956, which circulated in ufology circles. It involves an alleged Air Force sergeant, Jonathan P. Levette, whose body was purportedly found mutilated in the New Mexico desert after an alleged UFO abduction. The reported details include surgical precision. His tongue was allegedly cut from the lower jaw, eyes gouged out, and anus removed with what was described as surgical skill, like a plug. Bloodlessness. The body was reportedly completely drained of blood, yet without the vascular collapse usually associated with death by bleeding. Lack of conventional explanation. The official account of this specific Project Grudge Report number 13 is not publicly available or confirmed, leading to much speculation. Another alleged case that draws parallels is the Guarapiranga Reservoir incident in Brazil from 1988, where an unidentified human body was reportedly found with eyes, ears, tongue, and genitalia removed, and digestive organs missing, also without signs of decomposition despite being dead for days. It's crucial to understand the distinction. Most human mutilations are explainable. The vast majority of human mutilation cases investigated by law enforcement are linked to criminal acts, homicides, torture, self-harm, non-suicidal self-injury, often in the context of severe mental illness, or post-mortem activity by scavengers. These cases usually leave behind forensic evidence consistent with human or animal perpetrators. The unexplained human mutilation cases are rare and controversial. The cases that align with the cattle mutilation pattern, surgical precision, bloodlessness, lack of struggle/tracks, are highly debated, often lack official confirmation, and are primarily discussed within fringe theories, including those involving UFOs or other non-human entities. They are not a recognized or common phenomenon in the same way cattle mutilations are, despite the ongoing mystery surrounding the latter. So, while mutilation can certainly happen to humans through various means, the specific, unexplained, and pattern phenomenon akin to cattle mutilations is overwhelmingly reported on animals, with only a handful of alleged and unverified human cases mirroring those perplexing characteristics.